Here we are at Pan Am 360 with Vicky Metler, aka Kee Avil. Kee Avil released 2 years ago the album called Crease, and it had a very good impact on the local scene and more than the local scene because it's been reviewed everywhere in the Anglo-Saxon world. And this week, this is the very special week for Kee Avil because she's performing at the Centre Phi on Thursday night, and she's also in those days releasing a new album called Spine. This is what we're going to talk about. Hi, Kee.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Very good. Thank you.
So I found the first album very interesting. You had a very special blend of electronic, avant rock, I would say maybe gothic folk, noise, on many aspects, a minimalistic also approach. So we there's a very interesting blend that built your own world. But I'd like to know, what is your perception of this process? How would you put some words about the quest for your own artistic identity, and how after it did evolve from the first recordings until now?
Yeah. So I guess for me, since the beginning of Kee Avil, really, I base it a lot of instinct. So the compositional approach is very instinctual. It's very, maybe as you know, based in improvisation, because I come from a music improvisation background. So very much in the moment, taking ideas and not filtering them so much in the moment, but building them up later through a lot of editing and manipulation of sound. So kind of having a very free-flowing process at first and seeing what comes up and recording everything and then listening back. Building on those ideas. And I think compared to Crease, where I was very building one song at a time, little worlds, very individual worlds, Spine came together much faster in the sense that all the songs were written in a much smaller period of time, and they were more intertwined in the production process. So we would do many songs at once. We recorded all the guitars and all the voices at once, and kind of didn't separate them as much.
I understand that for the first cycle, you had to build your own world. So it took much more time just to, explore every details. And afterwards, at the second chapter, you release other recordings, but I mean albums. At the second chapter, everything is clearer in your own aesthetics.
Yeah, I guess it's clearer. I guess the bigger challenge comes from pushing myself to use new tools, to not use this all the same, to create something new, but definitely based on an aesthetic that's more confident. But the challenge that comes into like not repeating the album. So we really try to explore new compositional tools, new instruments, even kind of like building our own instruments. And yeah, and because the idea was the different sound. Of course, building on the previous.
Yeah. You say you come from music improvisation. So, of course, it's not jazz. Of course, it's not free jazz. It's improvisation from other worlds of music, probably mainly electronic and rock, and also noise. What would you say?
Well, actually, I did a lot of what I guess a lot of people would say free jazz, or even I studied in jazz for a brief period of time, and
at McGill,
at Vanier.
At Vanier,
Cégep.
Yeah, it's Cégep, just near the Saint Laurent Cégep. Yeah,
exactly. And it really wasn't for me, and I don't consider myself in any way trained in jazz, but I did have that kind of very basic theory, and I did it after I finished school. I wasn't sure what to do, so I did start doing a lot of free improvisation in Montreal, based around free jazz, with a lot of people in the city. So I would say actually that the improvisation comes from not necessarily free jazz, because it wasn't really we were not trying to do things that were inspired by jazz, but more free improvisation in the sense of there's no predetermined structure or idea. It was really to push the instruments in a different direction. And even on Spine, there is some of those moments that I invited my friends that when I started improvising, like I was playing with them a lot, and they came in the studio and just free improvised on their instruments, and I used those samples to some ideas. So that's, I guess, free jazz in a very broad sense.
In a broad sense. Well, free improvisation.
Exactly.
Free improvisation in any sense. Now, there's no monopoly for improvisation in the jazz world. Maybe we had this perception in the previous decades, but now it's not relevant. You can improvise from every field, and you can have any tools. You don't need a saxophone or a drum or a double bass to improvise in a free improv approach.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is what you did. And I also understand that you work a lot in the recording process. You've been involved in studios. You founded some Concrete Sound Studio. Am I right?
I did not found it. I mean, I took over from another studio. I don't do the recording myself. I only work on my own music in studio. But now it's transferred to a mastering mixing studio. So that studio shut down. But I've been involved in the building of, I guess, of these spaces, or maintaining these spaces.
Yeah, you were involved in the rising of the studio. Yeah, I understand. And you're still I see that you are at Bob Studios right now.
Yeah, that's the old so there you go. That's the old name of the.
Okay, that was the previous name, but
exactly.
It's the same place.
So it's not the place doesn't exist anymore. So we shut it down. It was a studio that was too big for our needs in the end, too expensive. So we shut it down and we moved to a smaller space, which now is called Concrete Mastering, and it's only mixing mastering. And now we do mobile recording, so not in studio, but we go to churches, wherever people want to record.
Okay.
And that's where we record. Yeah.
Can you tell me where you recorded the new album? In many some places.
Mostly at home, actually.
Okay.
Mostly at my last apartment. Yeah. So we have this recording gear, and then we did vocals at our studio, the mixing mastering studio, through the gear that's there.
You don't need a lot of room, because a big room, because you can add some coats in your first tracks, and what I listen is simple. The structure is simple, and after we see some new details emerging through the song. I don't even know if we can call that song. The voice involved, lyrics involved, but is it a song form? Not really.
I guess that's the big question of because I guess to me there are song forms, and especially on this one, I feel like there's repeating, like if you see Felt, for example, there's a definite like verse, like even a chorus section that just means to me something that repeats, that's a bit like a melody that's a bit more, it's different, and it's. Is it a traditional structure? Not really, but I think I think that's the experimentation really of what is a song at the end of the day.
Of course, you have some elements of the original forms. Sometimes it's easier to understand that it's a song, but sometimes not, and it's not important anyways.
Exactly.
Well, you do whatever you want. What is important is it has to be good, and that's it. If it's a song or a long piece, we don't mind.
Yeah, and even for yourself, like I tell myself, I'm trying to discover what a song is for me, but that's just a word. Like you say, it's not what's important. It's more like that interest in experimentation, I think, for me.
Yeah, and so you told me at the beginning of this conversation that you experimented a lot on Crease, and after it was easier to record and faster. What do you think you've achieved since the beginning? What is more precise? What are you proud of in your own evolution?
For Spine?
Yeah.
For the new album, I think I would say the the singing for me. I worked on the singing. The style of singing, Crease was super intimate, very soft singing, and now I was able to expand. I took lessons. I was like, able to expand on the voice a lot, and also the what I think the album succeeded in being for me was this mixture of what I call folk, and that's another, I guess, like word that we use as song, but it's kind of like this idea that a lot of them were guitar songs that I can play on guitar and sing like around a campfire almost, and adding electronic beats to it, like really like electronics that are not just um, that don't just have like a tapestry or like a passive element to them, but
Mhm.
that drive the song, that's a beat, and combining them with that in those kinds of like guitar songs, I think I'm happy with what we were able to do within that idea,
Mhm.
which I was trying to find examples of, like, it's always like you're trying to create the music you want to hear, and so I think yeah, I'm proud of what we were able to do with that mixture, I think.
So we won't go to comparisons or your strongest influences and things like that. Let's try to situate yourself in a whole aesthetic world. Uh, do you have some affinities with artists or some currents of music, some streams of music, some subgenres or things like that? Is it relevant to talk about that for you?
I guess so. I mean, I don't. I guess like most people, I feel like genre is so hard to pin down in a way. But I think for me, like I was very inspired by Mika Levy. I don't know if you know them.
Yeah, sure. I interviewed her.
Oh, there you go. Like
Yeah, like 10 years ago, I talked with her, even 15 years ago.
yes, their work is very like was very a big inspiration for like the kind of textures, the kind of like even like they did the a performance like Mikachu in the Shapes in a park, a live
Excellent.
performance on YouTube. Maybe you've heard it.
Yeah, of course.
And I love that kind of like very detuned, but very it's still a song. Like the vocal is very raw. Like so that was a big inspiration for me um, for this album. And then artists like Fiona Apple, like her last
Pineapple.
album. Yeah, kind of like things that are. I guess I tend to listen to a lot of things that are song based in a way that kind of also try to stretch that idea. And for Spine, I was also listening to a lot of like glitch music, like
Glitch minimal.
exactly. So kind
Yeah,
of
that we had a lot of this kind of music at Mutech in the last 25 years.
exactly. It's
Well,
a
more in the late 90s and the beginning of the 2000s. Yeah,
like the dry electronic.
exactly. The German stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And for Spine, I worked a lot with Foley sounds also. So film libraries of sounds that a lot of the beats are made with that.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's a genre of music, but maybe
No,
it
no,
should.
but it's a encyclopedia of sounds that where
Exactly.
you can just pick some elements of it. Do you do a lot of field recordings yourself?
I don't. I mostly use the libraries because it's like such high quality sounds that you can get. And
It's so well done now. We don't necessarily need to go in the forest
I mean, I'm
to
sure it's fun, and it would be an experience, and you can build your own sounds. But for me, I really enjoyed just typing in all these random objects and seeing what comes up, and like, listening to those objects that other people recorded. I thought it was
yeah.
okay for
You
me.
prefer to work on those materials and after build your own things and just create your own craft in a way. So it's interesting. Well, we will see more and more people that won't necessarily record everything to there's such and well, it's a sort of infinity of possibilities now where you can pick. So you don't need necessarily to take your microphone and go in the street or in the nature.
Yeah, yeah. Unless yeah, if it's something that's is inspiring for the project. But yeah, I don't have the equipment either to do that necessarily.
Yeah.
So it
Well,
would have
we
to
have
fit
to
in.
choose what at some point you cannot do everything.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
like working at home and just
You like
have
to
a
be home.
yes.
Are you Montreal born?
I was born in Laval, so I grew up
Well, in Quebec, well,
in Quebec.
Laval,
Yes.
Montreal,
No,
the
sure.
Montreal area.
Exactly.
Exactly. I see. What can we expect in a way? I don't want to give us your own surprises on Thursday night, but are you going to be alone with a band? What is the setup?
I'm gonna be performing with a drummer.
Mm-hmm.
We just came back from tour, from a 2.5 week tour in Europe, and so we've been building this set. I'll be on guitar, voice, and Kyle Hutchins, who's playing drums, will be. It's an acoustic hybrid electronic kit.
Mm-hmm.
So electronic, but with electronic triggers, but an acoustic mic'd snare that he processes objects through.
Mm-hmm.
So just like preparing, like using whatever, screws, all kinds of objects in the snare to try to get that acoustic quality of the album,
I see.
combined with the electronic sounds from the album.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Will it be the first time you perform your new album?
It's going to be the first time in Montreal, in Canada.
Oh,
yeah. So we've been playing it on tour, but it's going to be the first time in Montreal, yes. And there'll be visuals by Myriam Blow, who also did the visuals for Crease. So I'm very excited for that. She's working on that.
Blow,
yeah.
Who is also a musician.
She's a musician and a visual artist, yeah.
Yeah, I saw her. I did interview her like a few years ago. She builds excellent objects, musical objects.
Yes.
We saw her a lot of Acousma and also at Mutec.
Yeah. So she'll be doing the visuals for
That's fine.
Yeah.
So it's a very good association.
I think so. I mean, I don't know if you saw the ones for Crease, but it was just beautiful. Like her work.
Yeah, I saw that. It was very. But I didn't know that it was her. That it.
Yeah. It's her. She's very multi-talented.
Yeah, this is what we know. She always built objects, so it makes sense.
It's true. Yeah, she works a lot with AI, and so it's a lot of trying to figure out how to make visuals with AI, and without that becoming the front of the it's a tool really.
Yeah.
To build.
Well, AI can be an excellent tool. It depends what we do with it,
Exactly. She's very tasteful. Yeah, definitely.
Excellent.
I'm very excited.
Well, yeah, we are too. So because you're a new voice, it's very recent. 2 years ago, it's very recent. So those two albums are emerging almost in a very short period. So this is the first stream of your expression publicly, I would say.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Kee Avil, I thank you very much for this. We will be there at Centre Phi on Thursday, May 30 at 8.
Doors at 7. Show starts at 8. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Show.
Excellent.
Yes.
We'll be there. Bye now.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.